All right, we are live, Chair West, so you can start whenever you wish.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll call to order this meeting of the Mayor's Council. Before we begin, I do want to acknowledge that we are operating on treaty and traditional territories of Indigenous nations and appreciate our ongoing relationship with them as we plan and manage our region's transportation system. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Approval of public meeting minutes. It's been moved and
Second.
seconded. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. All right, that'll take us to public delegates. There are four today. Just a note for our delegates that you have 3 minutes to present to the Mayor's Council, and we'll start with Amin Chandi.
Hello. Hello, Aman.
Good morning.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, it's Amin. I'm speaking on behalf of Movement Metro Vancouver Transit Riders, a nonprofit advocating for better transit across our region. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today and share a brief update on our low-income transit pass campaign. I spoke in March about the urgent need for fare affordability in Metro Vancouver, especially before the July fare hikes. So I won't revisit the full case today, but I do want to underscore the momentum that's building and the opportunity that's in front of us right now. In May, we launched a campaign calling on the province to expand the BC Bus Pass program to include all low-income residents. Since then, nearly 2,500 people across Metro Vancouver have written to their MLAs. More than 50 organizations, including unions, nonprofits, faith groups, and community coalitions have formally endorsed our call. So there's a broad, growing coalition, and you can see the full list at our website at litpass.ca. This issue is also gaining serious public visibility. Major outlets, including the CBC, the Vancouver Sun, City News, the Tyee, Vancouver is Awesome, they've all covered our campaign. And we're seeing the momentum at the municipal level as well. Vancouver City Council has passed a motion supporting a low-income transit pass, and other municipalities are starting to follow. So we're calling on the Mayor Council to show their support again for this issue. You've already shown leadership on this issue in the past. So what we're asking now is that you help move this forward with the province. And this could mean a formal letter, direct advocacy, or using your collective voice to make this a priority. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. The next delegate is Nathan Davidovich.
That you help move this forward with the province. And this could mean a formal letter, direct advocacy.
Hey, Nathan, you're on. Can you mute your YouTube stream?
Thank you very much for your presentation. The next delegate is Nathan Davidovich.
Hey, Nathan, you're on the meeting, and you can start whenever you're ready, but you'll need to mute your live stream.
Thanks. Yeah. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Nathan. Go ahead.
Oh, you can hear me now. Okay. Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Nathan Davidovich. I'm asking you to defer items 5.1.1, bus speed and reliability report, and item 6.1, staying the course on transport 2050 and access for everyone plan. With the municipal election in October, there might be more pro-transit candidates elected. They might force TransLink to endorse the BC Federation of Labor 2024 report calling Connecting BC, as well as other common sense measures that TransLink refuses to implement. We already have few present municipal politicians that endorsed Connecting BC. The BC government might also change the bad TransLink Act from 2008, and local politicians might get complete control of TransLink instead of the present BC Ferries model of two boards. We need new plans and new direction as we are way behind in achieving many targets for sustainable transportation. Just look at the transit ridership numbers for February, March, and April 2026, all down compared to 2025. The ridership per capita in 2025 was only 75 compared to 100 in 2019. Even in 2019, TransLink was number 4 in Canada, behind Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. Look at the increase of number of registered cars with ICBC. We have to do something. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you for your presentation. The next delegate is Chris Ng.
We just joined Chris in. Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
Perfect. You can go ahead.
Hello, I'm Chris from Richmond. I'm an organizer with Movement. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the workers at Dexterra for keeping us safe, and I hope they get the working conditions they're fighting for. And I'd also like to thank Mayor Brody for his years as service and enjoy retirement, I suppose. I'm here to speak about the low-income transit pass. And I think given the cost of living and unemployment crisis that we're facing, I think it's very clear that we need relief, especially for the people who are facing the brunt of the crisis. And as you probably know, one of the biggest contributors to economic mobility is actual physical mobility to get from point A to point B, because in order to have a job, you need to physically be able to get to your job. And better transit also lets you get access to cheaper housing and cheap groceries. Hello? And that's why better transit has such an outsized effect on people's lives. And that's why we need a low-income transit pass alongside better transit in general. And on a personal note, the reason why I'm fighting for low-income transit pass is because my own friends are struggling. I know somebody in Richmond who has so little cash on hand that they can't even go to job interviews. We went to a job fair last week, and afterwards, their Compass card had single digits of dollars left. And I know somebody else who used to live and work in Richmond, and they're a young couple who wants to settle down and marry eventually. The problem is that they still work in Richmond, but now they live in Poco for cheaper rents. So now they have to commute 4 hours across 3 zones every day, all on minimum wage. It doesn't have to be this way. We can do something about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And the final delegate this morning is Joe Kunzler.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great to hear you, Mayor West. It's always good to hear your voice. Joe Kunzler here. I've got a few items to present to the World Famous Mayor's Council this morning. The first item is I hope you will stay in these online meeting formats. I think they're a lot more inclusive. I think they're safer for the mayors, for the staff, and for the public. And even though you used to have in-person meetings next to a beautiful Metrotown SkyTrain station that also has SkyTrain and buses, still online is just much more easier. Because people, when you go to a public meeting, they have to research what they're going to say. They have to travel down there. They have to sit in the audience and then finally speak to you and then travel back home. So there's that. But the main reason why I'm calling in is I want to address the mayors directly as somebody who occasionally uses the TransLink bus lane network. I'm asking you two mayors, when you are down in your chambers and you're asked, and when you're here, and when you're asked to support bus lanes, and you hear from the critics, and we all know the car lovers are going to do what they do. I want you, mayors, to look directly at them and say, I'm not backing bus lanes just because I'm a Sarah Ross fan. I'm backing bus lanes because we should move people, not cars. I'm backing bus lanes not just because I believe in TransLink as a force for good of good, but because I believe that moving people and buses frees up the roads for freight and reduces carbon emissions during a climate emergency. Thank you, Bo and Ma. And it's really important that people's time be a priority. And that's why you support bus lanes. Because one bus can move substantially more people through a lane than a car. I hope I was simple and to the point and eloquent and gave you some tips on how to advocate for bus lanes. I also, on hold, couldn't help but notice the request for a low-income transit pass. I happen to support that cause because your all-day pass is substantially more expensive than not just Skagit Transit, but WTA, Sound Transit, BC Transit, and other neighboring transits. So I think I've given you my thoughts. I want to thank you for your public service. I believe strongly that TransLink is a force for good in the world and encourage you to keep doing that. And may God continue to bless TransLink in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, we'll now move on to the report of the chair. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning. I want to start by congratulating TransLink and our region more broadly in making the World Cup experience so positive for both residents and visitors to our region. This global event demonstrates Metro Vancouver's ability to shine on a world stage and when stacked up against much larger cities. We're able to overperform not just because of our natural advantages, our beautiful mountains and oceans, but also because of how we've organized and built our region. When it comes to choices around land use and transportation, we've built a region where getting around is easier, more convenient, and more pleasant than many other big cities in North America. People can watch a World Cup game downtown at BC Place or at a local fan zone without sitting in traffic for hours like is happening in many other World Cup host cities. We're making this happen because of the transit system we have spent decades building and the first-class service that TransLink has designed and delivered for this event. I'm happy that when it comes to transit, Metro Vancouver is delivering a win this World Cup. But I'm sure you'll join me in my thoughts that we don't need to host a global mega event to make our transit network great for our residents 365 days a year. What it will take is choices. We as a Mayor's Council have chosen to keep pushing to improve our already excellent transit system, knowing that these investments will create and support jobs, make our region more affordable and more livable, and make life better for our residents. What we're waiting for, still, is for colleagues in Ottawa and Victoria to do the same. I was present last week when the Prime Minister and Premier announced a new agreement, including funding for transit. The funding is an important investment in our region, but what last week's announcement was not, was new. This funding was originally announced in 2024 and then again in 2025. Last week's announcement also did not confirm how or when those funds can be accessed so that we can get started on the new transit that has been planned, including the first 3 BRTs in our region. I hope the Prime Minister and the Premier will move past announcements and make the decisions that we need to let us get to work delivering results. I know that's what our residents expect from all of us. That is the report of the chair. Can I have a motion to receive, please? It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Thank you. Next is a report from TransLink Management.
All right. Thank you so much, Chair West, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I want to have I'll be providing just a brief update, highlighting several examples of how transit is really delivering value across the region from the results of our 2025 Transit Service Performance Review, as well as our HandyDART Service Performance Review, to bus speed and reliability improvements, to the strong performance of our network during the FIFA World Cup. Really providing some updates that I think really demonstrate the critical role that transit plays in connecting people and supporting economic growth and keeping us moving. Next slide, please. Similar to Mayor West's note, I do want to take a moment just to acknowledge last week's federal government housing and infrastructure announcement. Ottawa did reinforce a commitment of $2.5 billion for transit infrastructure in BC over the next 10 years through the Strong Transit Fund, subject to a final agreement with the province. Just a comment on this. I think we can all agree that this falls short of the investment required really to meet our region's evolving transportation needs. It does give us some certainty of the BC federal allocation as we look to advance some really much needed infrastructure projects. And I think we all know our work is far from done. We remain very focused on securing the long-term investment needed to expand service, as well as to deliver that capital infrastructure that we know we so desperately need. Next slide, please. This week, we're releasing our 2025 Transit Service Performance Review and the 2025 HandyDART Service Performance Review, which demonstrates how customers use our system and how we are responding to their evolving needs. And thanks to new service introduced through the 2025 investment plan approved by this Mayor's Council, overcrowding on weekday bus trips dropped more than 50% last year. In 2025, customers took nearly 238 million transit trips. And just to kind of put this into perspective, while we're the 21st largest metropolitan area in Canada and the US by population, Metro Vancouver ranks third in how often residents use transit, trailing only behind New York and Montreal. We've seen that ridership growth level off a bit recently. That reflects really broader population shifts, in part influenced by federal immigration policies such as reduced international student and newcomer intake caps. Even so, whether it's a commute to work or class or a shift or an appointment, we know that transit remains essential to how people participate in their communities and in the regional economy. Next slide, please. The 2025 HandyDART Service Performance Review really outlines the work we've done in adjusting services to meet demand and highlights our deliberate focus on improving that service year after year. HandyDART continues to stand out, with customer satisfaction being the highest across our entire transit system. This service really allows customers not only to get to medical appointments and social engagements, but really also to participate in the workforce and access education and remain active in their communities. Today, more than 32,000 registered HandyDART customers rely on the service. That's a 3% increase over last year. And we expect demand to grow for HandyDART by 30% in just the next 4 years because of population growth and demographic changes. But we're preparing for that future now with our HandyDART Customer First plan. As you may know, we've extended late night hours. We're preparing also to implement a new online booking system, really to make this service as flexible and as convenient as possible for our customers. Next slide, please. Similarly, we're preparing for the future today through our bus speed and reliability work. You'll note that the bus speed and reliability report that's in the consent agenda today, every weekday, Metro Vancouver bus riders collectively lose over 44,000 hours to congestion. That time lost to traffic instead of getting to work, school, or family, that comes at a cost to both customers and to our bottom line, accounting for about 13% of our annual bus operating costs. That's why since 2018, we've added 80 lane kilometers of bus priority across 100 routes. And I think the results really speak for themselves because travel times are up to 35% faster. For example, on the R6 Rapid bus, we've cut travel times by some 20% on one of Surrey's busiest corridors, reinforcing that big upgrades along priority corridors really do make the biggest impact in easing congestion. And every dollar that we save, that's put right back into delivering more service. That's more buses, more trips, more access. And from upgrades currently underway on multiple corridors to recently completed projects, the return on these initiatives is really huge. For example, a combined bus lane and signal priority project at East 3rd Street and Kennard intersection on the North Shore, that's reduced travel times by more than 10% at peak times on weekdays. And at Coquitlam Central, we installed a new mid-block signal that lets buses move ahead of traffic, shaving nearly a minute off every trip, and that cuts costs in the process. I want to note that these upgrades wouldn't be possible without our community and municipal partners, and we'll continue that collaboration as we implement this work. Next slide, please. Before I wrap up, I do want to touch on the excitement we've seen across the region the last few weeks. The World Cup is in town, and the energy across Metro Vancouver has really been electric. Our transit system has been so instrumental in moving fans to and from matches and watch parties across communities, while helping businesses, restaurants, hotels, and attractions benefit from the activity that these events really bring. We've added extra service across bus, SkyTrain, and West Coast Express to get people to and from those events, while also really focusing on keeping regular commutes running smoothly. We've also strengthened a lot of wayfinding across the system so that visitors feel confident using the system, while also embracing the energy of the tournament. Many of you may have seen that Sports Illustrated ranked Vancouver the top host city, and they also specifically acknowledged the strength of our excellent transit system in that ranking. I think it really highlights the large-scale planning and preparation that went into this event, but also the decades of investment that have built such a reliable transportation network. And it's certainly a reminder that the investments that we make today, they go beyond daily mobility and position our region to host global events, to strengthen economic activity, and provide a great daily transit system that showcases Metro Vancouver at its best. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for your time today. Happy to take any questions. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. Are there any questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion to receive? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that will bring us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove the report that's there? Councillor Dominato?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good morning. I'd like to remove consent item 5.1.1, please.
All righty. That item has been removed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, can I just ask
Yes.
on the bridge replacement item, whether there's an opportunity just for a little more discussion on that?
That's an in-camera meeting.
Oh,
coming up.
sorry. You're right.
Okay. All right. So the bus speed and reliability report has been removed from the consent agenda. That was the only item on it. So we will, Mike, just trying to follow here. Is the idea that we would deal with that item now or after the next one?
I think typically consent items are put to the end of the agenda, so we can
Okay.
do 6.1 and then we can come back to the PSR report.
Okay, well, we want to make sure we're doing this correctly. Next item then will be staying the course on Transport 2050 and Access for Everyone plan.
Thank you very much, Chair. This item was deferred from the previous meeting. We do have a comprehensive report and a number of slides, but I don't think I need to go through that. You can look at them in your package. I just want to a couple of key points for the Mayor's Council's context here. Transport, we have a requirement under legislation to review the long-range strategy every 5 years, which means that by mid-2028, we have to have done a review and reconsidered our long-range strategy. The purpose of the item coming at this time now is that I wanted to seek direction on what level of scale of review to do in advance and to be compliant with that legislative direction. A couple of key things we look at is, so first I'll say Transport 2050, which is our current long-range strategy, was approved in January of 2022. So, just a bit more than 4 years ago. We have until 2028 per the legislation. And yes, a lot has changed, and there's been a lot of upheaval in the last few years. But part of that, and partly because of that, and partly because of funding, we really haven't had the opportunity to let the Transport 2050 plan, as well as the accompanying Access for Everyone plan, really run its course. And we have lots of implementation still left to do. And so our recommendation is that this is not the time to mobilize up staff effort to focus on a planning process and reopen all of the Transport 2050 and the Access for Everyone plan. And that we want to focus on implementing Transport 2050 and Access for Everyone to the greatest extent we can, given some of the funding constraints. And so the reason I'm asking now is that if you did want us to do a larger review of that, I'd need to start mobilizing and preparing my 2027 work program to support that. So our recommendation is that we don't do that mobilization. We continue to focus on implementing to the best that we can, given the constraints we're working in. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Hey, thank you for that explanation, which makes sense to me. Any comments or questions? Mayor Locke.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think we would be better off to leave this till after the municipal election. I think I have real concerns with it for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the lack of enthusiasm from the provincial government to support what is transit in our region. So I think right now, I think this would be better off if we could refer it and bring it back in after the fall election to see where everybody's sitting then. We're in a different place and space than we were then. But I think if we were, when we all look at what Transport 2050 is right now, it is not very realistic. Given our ability to finance the program. So I would rather see this postponed till after the election. And so I won't be supporting moving forward or staying the course at this time. I don't think it makes sense. I think we have to have a real serious look at the honest or our real ability to raise the kind of money we're going to need to fulfill it.
Okay. Thank you for your excuse me. Thank you for your comments. Maybe I could just ask staff to understand how something like that would, what sort of direction would you take from that? Because I understand what you're looking for is direction from us to not engage in a bunch of planning work. So maybe if you can clarify how that Mayor Locke's comments would work with what you require.
We recognize that when there is a change, a municipal election, it can change the composition of the Mayor's Council, and that new Mayor's Council has the prerogative to change direction to staff. So I would be very helpful to have direction from the Mayor's Council today on whether we should start planning and building into our 2027 budget efforts to review Transport 2050. It will be difficult for us to adjust, although we always would adjust at the direction of a future Mayor's Council to the greatest extent that we can. But it would be helpful to have direction, and if we need to adjust under a new Mayor's Council, we will.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any further speakers or comments on this topic? Yes, Councillor Asmundson.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to stay the course in 2050. I understand what staff is proposing, but I think we put a lot of work into 2050 for the needs of our region and the growth and the transit needs. And if we back off now, that just gives the federal and provincial governments the reasons to back off funding us for what we really need. And it'll just keep putting the region further and further behind on the transit and transportation needs we need. So I would basically take staff's advice, keep 2050 as it is and keep moving forward. I know, Chair West, that there's some hard knocks we have to deal with in the province and the feds haven't come across, but I think we got to keep their feet to the fire because this is what we need for our region. If they're talking about all the housing they want and all these things they're doing, I think we've said it's time for them. They gave us housing targets. We should give them hospitals, transit, and every other target that we need to be successful. So I wouldn't back off on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mayor Johnstone?
Yeah, thank you for that. I agree with Councillor Adamson. I think that this is an opportunity for us to send a message. I know we're all going into elections. I know that there's going to be a lot of rhetoric coming out over the next 4 or 5 months that we're all going to have to address in our own communities. I think that this Mayor's Council has demonstrated its commitment to this plan and to investing in this system. I think we've demonstrated it not just with our words, but with our willingness to make an investment up ahead and put our money where our mouth is to build this plan. I think that if I do not want to send the message to the people who rely on this system that we're slowing down or that we have any intent of backing down on our commitments to getting this system built to the needs that the region has. I think that we have to continue to send the message that these priority BRT routes are important to us. We need to continue to send the message that we're going to be upgrading service on SkyTrain. I think we need to continue to push forward and expect, not just hope, but expect that the provincial and the federal governments are going to come to the table with us and meet the commitment that we've made as local leaders and as regional leaders. So yeah, let's keep pushing forward. Let's keep on the plan, and let's send the message to the public that we are and continue to be committed to expanding the public transit system in this region to meet the growth of this region. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Rumi?
I'm going to keep mine short and simple. I've been saying this all along. We've worked hard to get to where we are today. I have no intention of waving a white flag. If they want to cancel it, that's up to them to do, and they will wear that. If we cancel it, if we take a step back, then, I mean, look, they're the ones, the feds are the ones who are cutting what they promised us in the first place. So why would we give in to that? You know, we could wait till the next election and afterwards, but quite frankly, we don't know who's going to be at the table. We don't know what kind of institutional knowledge will be there, and anything can change. But as a whole, as a region, we have stayed the course together, and I think that we still need to do that. We don't know what the end outcome is of our advocacy work with the province and the federal. But if we back down, it gives them the way out, and that makes no sense to me at all, because we need all this transit services. We need BRT. We need improved access to services. So I say we stay the course, and we stick to our integrity and what we have going for us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The observation I'll make is that, first, as others have said, a significant amount of work has gone into building Transport 2050 on the basis of what does our region require. And so I know members of this council participated in that, and we arrived at a place where we were able to support it unanimously. I think the key moment in this is going to be whether the province delivers on its commitment for a new funding model. That becomes incredibly important to the future deliverability of this plan. And we know that that will be staring us down next year. If at that point in time the province reneges on its commitments, then the consequence of that will be that they will have nailed the coffin of Transport 2050, and we'll have to explain that to the public. And but we, I think, are some time from getting to that point, and obviously our efforts to have them fulfill their commitment between now and then will continue. So appreciate all the comments. Would someone like to move the recommendation or an alternate motion? Yes, Mayor Johnstone.
I'll move it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final comments? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Opposed, I have Mayor Locke, and just sorry, it's hard to see all the little screens. If there's anyone other than Mayor Locke opposed, if you could indicate verbally. Hearing none, motion passes. All right, that will take us to the item that was pulled from the consent agenda, the 2025 bus speed and reliability report. Councillor Dominato, I'll go to you since you requested this to be pulled.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and appreciate the update and some of the progress made. I did just want to ask staff about how they see as we continue to undertake this work with municipalities, the public engagement portion of this, and I know it's done in conjunction with our own cities and our staff. And I bring it up in the context of with a couple of corridors in Vancouver, where we've had public concerns voiced by residents and businesses, particularly in retail corridors. And also I'm dealing right now with a young woman who has a disability who lives mid-block on 49th, and so challenges of access to vehicles when she needs to go to medical appointments. So things like that. So I think the overarching question here is like, how do we envision building, doing the public engagement and also building the social license for some of these efforts, recognizing there are obviously significant benefits in terms of riders and as our CEO spoke to, but how do we engage our public maybe earlier on and address some of their concerns along the way?
Thank you very much for your question. Public and business engagement is really important on these bus priority projects, and we do always do outreach along a corridor, particularly if we are doing a bus stop balancing initiative where we are shifting or removing bus stops. We've done a lot of outreach. We put signs on every bus stops ahead of time, trying to give the public a lot of notice so that we can hear from people to make sure we fully understand what different impacts may be on people. We do assessment of particular destinations along the corridor. So for example, if we know that there's a seniors facility or home near a bus stop, even if that bus stop is maybe not in the greatest spot from our, maybe it's not spaced in the ideal way, that's okay. That it needs to serve that. We've done a lot of outreach also with businesses through the business improvement associations. As you noted, we do partner with the municipalities, and particularly we've done because there's so much delay in the City of Vancouver, we've done a lot of work with City of Vancouver staff. We've got great partnership with them, and we've usually recently taken will be focused, TransLink will focus on certain aspects. So for example, the bus stop placements, and the city who controls, for example, other changes to the roadway would be taking the lead on that aspect of it. We did get a lot of feedback on some changes to road space allocation, to some proposals to remove parking. We got a lot of feedback on Hastings corridor, and we paused on that work. So it is really important that we understand and we hear from the public. At the same time, we've had a great relationship with the BIA in the South Granville Marpole area. In fact, we just got an email yesterday from them expressing how thrilled they are with the work that we did with the city in that business stretch along South Granville. So we continue to, is there room for our improvement in our engagement? I'm sure there is. And, we continue to work on that and learn from every project that we do on where are some of the rubs and how we can make sure that we're doing better. We want to have good, positive partnerships with the public and with the business community.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I appreciate that. And I do have a request I'll just make offline to you and your team, and we can take that offline. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to receive the report? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. All right. That will take us to a motion to adjourn to a closed session.